Packing punches, we are with Ian Jumbo Johnson, Cutman to the champions. How you doing this evening, sir?
Very well, sir.
Excellent stuff. You've had a busy weekend just gone.
Yeah, it's been a very exciting few weeks, but this weekend was something out of the ordinary, like a fairy tale story for a local lad, wasn't it, in Bournemouth?
Yeah, incredible show, incredible weather down there for the fight week as well. And for you, a bit of a strange one, because obviously you used to do the cuts for Akoli as well. So not only was it stablemate against former stablemate, you've also worked in the opposite corner as well.
Yeah, when the fight was announced, I had to make a decision, and I went to Shane and I went to Tembler at Lance's camp, and I said to him, look, I've got too much respect for all of you. I've done every single one of Lance's, and I think I've done 12 or 13 of Chris's. I said, I've got to step back, find yourself a cut man. I think the gracious thing is to do. And they all understood. And they'd done that. And then come Friday, apparently the gentleman who was going to be doing Chris was unable to get there on Saturday. So Shane went and said to the promoter what had happened. And they said, well, what do you want to do? He said, well, I want Jumbo. So they told Lawrence and his team, and they said, fine, we've got a cut man. And that was it. So I done what I done.
Oh, so he was actually sort of going to abstain from the
Yes,
fight.
I was walking away from the pair of them because I've got too much respect. They've looked after me themselves, the pair of them.
Yeah, fantastic. And Chris certainly kept you busy that night. That was one hell of a cut, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a hell of a cut. I didn't get to stay right to the end because he was there until God knows what time. I think he said he got home early hours in the morning, like 5 or 6 or something after he'd done everything. But looking at the cut with experiences, I would say he possibly had 4 or 5 internal stitches and maybe 12 or 14 external stitches. It'd be interesting to see how it heals and whether or not they may need a little bit of a skin graft or plastic surgery on it.
Is that obviously where it was? Because it was kind of in the fat of the eyebrow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Does that make it a little bit easier to repair where the skin's not quite so tight?
It's a little bit freer to play with. It's not on the bone so much, and you can get your adrenaline stick in, open the cut, shut the cut back up on the stick and squeeze it and get the adrenaline into it easier. You like wrap the loose bit of skin round it.
Yeah, I mean, considering the size of it, you did an incredible job, sort of almost cauterizing it for the remainder of the fight.
Yeah, I think he got cut. That was the 11th or 10th, something like that. But we had another little cut just to the side of it, which kept clashing heads and rubbing on the inside. But I think if that had been round 4 or 5, I think I might have had some problems not stopping it, but letting the referee have the fight continue.
Let him continue,
I think it would have got worse.
So, and that was always, I think, going to happen in this fight, just because of the styles. I think the way they were going to clash. It's something you must have seen in Lawrence, watching him from the start. Yeah. The first time I saw Lawrence, I think you were in the corner for him actually. He was fighting Wadi Camacho, another fighter that you've done the cuts for. At the Copper Box, and that was a really good performance from him. I then witnessed the abysmal performance at Wembley in the Matty Askin British title fight.
Yeah.
And it's put me off Lawrence, in all honesty. And then under Shane, we saw a completely different fighter.
Yeah, but listen, Shane is a very intelligent young man. He never went pro. He had some good amateur, and he's come from good stock with Barry, doesn't he? And he's done himself proud because not all of his fighters are the same. He hasn't tried to make them one mechanically kind of person. They're all different, but he worked really well, keeping it long with Lawrence, and he did change him. But Lawrence's last couple of fights were a little bit unsure of himself again. It seems like he'd just gone back a bit because he wasn't sure what he wanted to do.
Yeah, it did almost seem like a revert to type in this performance against Chris, which I was one of the few that sort of did back Chris. I thought that Chris had him beat.
Yeah.
Building up to the fight. I really did. Just from his last performance against David White, we can't take too much, obviously, new trainer, a bit of ring rust. But I think Chris has been fantastic. He's on such a roll.
Chris,
really to me, exciting.
Is possibly or the most improved cruiserweight in the country.
Mm. I would agree. I'd really would agree. I think because he's really exciting to watch as well, which is something that people prod Lawrence with, I suppose, that he's not exciting to watch. In all honesty, I have avoided going to shows that he's on because it's not good to watch. And I do like when I go, I like to sit in my seat and watch everything.
I think you would have seen a lot of people on social media saying the same kind of thing. Like, I mean, I had a look at a couple of them, and they weren't very friendly towards Lawrence.
Yeah, well, he's a cracking lad, and his story is fantastic. The way
he's a lovely gentleman. He's a kind man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame that his style, although has been effective, isn't particularly fan friendly. It's but that's not the style for me that he won the world title with. I think under Shane, he was, as you say, keeping it long, winding up those levers to use his freaky frame.
Phenomenal, wasn't it?
Oh, we've said on this podcast before with Scott, who's normally with me on it, his levers are so long that the power he must generate is quite frightening. But sorry, mate, go on.
Go on, you were saying.
Well, what I saw from him Saturday night with holding the jab out there, almost as a rangefinder constantly, and I thought that didn't do him any favours. I thought Chris actually found a way to work around it.
Yeah, well, I believe Shane and him had already worked out a game plan, but Lawrence had the advantage of the height and the reach, and in my opinion, he didn't use them.
No, it was almost like you say, not playing to his own strengths really.
Yeah.
And I thought if he's holding that jab out there and looking for the right, I think Chris has only got to time him once.
Yeah.
And he'll walk onto one, and for the first knockdown he did.
Yeah, with that left work.
Yeah. So it was fantastic stuff, and as I say, another world champion coming out of the Shane McGuigan gym, which is brilliant stuff. Are you still involved with fighters? Are you still involved with Luke Pearson?
No, Luke. When COVID come and went, I decided to go self-employed and just do my own thing, and I just do personal training of all levels. I didn't have a premises anymore, I just wasn't financially able to do, I used to work out of a ladies' gym who was a pastor, and she had a gym and I managed it, so it was easier then. But now I just do that, and I just do cuts and hands for fighters or promoters that ask me to work for.
So which came first, the cuts or the personal training?
Oh, well, I was training before I was doing cuts. I was doing some young amateurs and that locally over like 26, 27 years ago. I was doing bits with amateurs and personal training. And then when I got involved, it was something I wanted to do. I just like it. I enjoy the cuts more than I do having a fighter to train. Some have asked me to do it and I've done it, but I've never gone looking for anybody. They've always come to me.
No, but obviously, and being in the corner doing the cuts, you can't actually enjoy the fight that's going on, can you? Because you're constantly on the look for the head clash, or is there a cut, or
I always ask the trainer and the second, like with Shane and Josh, who's another lovely lad, Josh Pritchard. I always say to him, look, if you see anything before me, because there's three sets of people there, 6 eyes, so somewhere, because it might be the blind side, Josh might see it or Shane might see it, so they always shout, always cut, Bosh, I'm ready.
Yeah, ready for the. I mean, you probably only really get 50 seconds, don't you? I suppose.
Exactly. If not just under that, because when the bell goes, 2 or 3 seconds to get in, 2 or 3 seconds to get them over. They're sitting down. Then you get the 10 seconds clap, and you have to get out of there. And they do chase you. So probably between 45 and 50 seconds. And it's all that in first squeeze it tight. Just hold that flow. Always have the ice on the central nervous system on the back of their neck. Or an ice towel on the head and down the neck to try and slow the flow, because it's the coolness slows the flow of the blood down to the skull. So you just have, like you say, 45 to 50 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing obviously a little bit of research for this. I've seen you in the corners for years and years and years, and one that really sticks in my mind was the Ryan Burnett cut, sort of between his eyes. And that must have been some pressure to try and stop that, as you say, in the 45 seconds that you get.
To be quite honest with you, it looked like a Harry Potter flash stop, but that was so big, I could get such a big swab, because I got swabs for the nasal passages and swabs that are thicker, and it was that big that I was able to get a big one in there and plenty of adrenaline, and within 2 rounds it had stopped.
Wow.
Because Adam Booth said to him, it's a bad cut. We're going to go, see how we go. And if we have to play you can't carry on because it was an accidental clash of heads. But they came to me and said after the fourth round, right, it's a fight now. And then Ryan had to show his mental, physical, and talent there because he'd never been cut before. So he had to win the fight off his own ability with me just keeping him there.
No, it's fantastic. It's such an integral role, actually, that I think a lot of people, if they don't have an involvement in the sport or they haven't been involved in the sport, they don't really understand the integral role that you would play as a cutman. In my sort of unlicensed background, I've always had my trainer doing it at the same time, which is in the pro game is an impossibility.
Yeah, you can't talk and concentrate at the same time.
No.
But it's like Sam Egerton on Saturday. They asked me to help with Sam Egerton. And Johnny Pegg said to me, look, you ain't worked with Sam for quite a long time. Can you step in? Yeah, of course I can. So, right. One thing, can you make sure you put the end swell on that right eye from the word go? I said, yeah, of course I can, John, because he swells up. Now, he was fighting, can't remember who he was fighting now.
Pigford, Jason Pigford.
Yeah, Pigford, Joe Pigford.
Pigford, yeah.
And he's a bit of a banger. So I got the end ice pack or the end swell on it, give it a good, bomb, bomb, bomb. And after the fight, he never had a mark. And Johnny Pegg said to me this morning, he said, give yourself a pat on the back, boy. He said, because not many times he comes out. So he told me from the word go what to do, and I done it. Yeah. So they know their fighter. So we just go with what they say.
And that was a fantastic performance from Sam on Saturday night as well. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. Well, John was even more surprised how lethargic and methodical Joe was. I didn't expect him to be that slow and methodical, but Sam didn't let him get into a rhythm. He stuck that jab straight down the middle into his face and then broke him down within the 4 rounds. And then the fifth, I think it was the fifth, he stopped him.
I think it was the fifth, yeah. I mean, I think that was something that no one could see coming because, I mean, Sam is in a war every time he fights.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sam's team believed it.
Did they? Yeah. I mean, it was a good shot for him, I think, at a fighter that's 20-0. It was in that division, obviously, you have to get the record quite high before you get the big title shots. Yeah. And yeah, I think, like you say, the way that he went out, they did truly believe that he could do it, and he went and did it in fantastic style.
Good people, Johnny Pegg and his man, I can't remember, Soggy, and the young boy Louis in the corner that works with them. They got good heads on their shoulders. They've been around a few years, and they had a game plan themselves, and it definitely worked.
Yeah, I say. So Sam, obviously over with boxer now. I know he was on Matchroom for quite a lot because he's a massive favourite of an old compadre of yours, isn't he? In Barry Hearn.
Barry Hearn loved him. His bits. And well, obviously people changed, things changed, and he's come over to boxer. But I think Sam is just now someone who people look at and think, oh, he's been because he's been around quite a time. I mean, what was he, 18 or something when he started there? Yeah. So yeah, he's been here a long time. But listen, let me tell you something. He's no mug. He's as tough as old boots. You come to a fight, you'll get one with Sam Egerton. He's a gentleman.
Absolutely, and he's actually got a lot more ability, I think, than a lot of people give him credit for. He's always seen as not as much a journeyman, but he's someone who can go in against anyone and give him a hard fight.
I would never ever class Sam as a journeyman.
No, I wouldn't either.
A good level pro fighter, and like you said, he's got a more ability than what some people give him credit for. You've only got to look at Saturday night with that jab, bosh, straight down the middle, stick it on him, break him down, pick the shots. Lovely.
Yeah, and pick the shots is perfect. It's exactly what he did when he stopped.
He didn't waste anything. Anything.
No, and it was, in all honesty, I think it probably could have been stopped 2 or 3 punches earlier.
I think it could have done. It's like he picked the quality of punches over the amount of punches. Quality over quantity.
Yeah. Another fighter that you've had a great lot of dealings with is the amazing Katie Taylor. How is she feeling after the weekend, a couple of weekends ago?
Well, I haven't done Katie for the last 2 fights because she moved to Massachusetts, and moving forward, Ross Eminent, her trainer, wanted someone locally, and they use this guy from the States all the time. But I was out there, obviously. I was out there supposed to be doing Terry Harper, and that obviously got called off.
Yeah.
But I was at the show and watched it, and my own honest opinion, I just think the step up in weight was just a little bit too much because take nothing away from Chantel Cameron. She won. She just looked bigger and stronger.
Yeah. Can you see Chantel shedding 5 pounds and then getting down to Katie's weight for a rematch?
I don't know. That's a very good question. If they did, would Chantel still be that strong?
Mm.
Because even though you get 24 hours to rehydrate, really, if you've lost a lot of fluid and a lot of everything with the dehydration, it takes longer than 24 hours to rehydrate.
Yeah. I think, and I would imagine Chantel she's quite big for the weight, that if she was to drop another 5 pounds, that, like say, she would be struggling, I think, to rehydrate the following day.
Yeah. 24 hours wouldn't be enough. But it's like, after that fight, like you contacted me about this, but a few people messaged me and said, Jumbo, did you see the state of Chantel Cameron's face? Oh my God. Now look at these pictures of Katie Taylor's wraps. And I looked at them and I replied to these people. I won't mention their names. I said, that wrap is exactly how Ross Eminent has wrapped her hands all the time I was with her. Nothing changed. Katie doesn't like a lot of padding. She has some. And I don't think it was the wraps at all. I think it was just the close contact with heads and everything. You know, some people jump on the bandwagon and say, look at her face. Her gloves must have been bad, or the wrapping must have been bad. If there had been any problems, the Irish Boxing Board, the commission, and the opposing team that was in that changing room watching her wrap would have said, well, hang on a minute. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Signed off by the commission. So these people who jump on and say, oh, their wraps are illegal, you know, they haven't got a clue.
No, I mean, that either Jamie or Nigel would have been stood in the change room, wouldn't they, watching them being wrapped.
Nigel
and they'd have had to have been signed IBC, Irish Boxing Control, and then it's done. Like you say, I think it was the shoulders, the heads, because they were in close all night. It might have well have been in a phone box, that fight. It was terrific.
Well, it could have been, couldn't it?
Yeah, and I think we were always going to get that. It was something I said when we were building up to the fight, that Chantel's never been there for me. She's not been in the phone box wars, whereas Katie's been there time and time again. Yeah. And I thought that might just be the one up for Katie, that she'd be able to battle through. But I was backing Katie. I was glad on the night that the call went to Chantel, because she did win it.
I'm pleased the judging was fair.
Yeah. I can see that it was a split, wasn't it, in the end? And you can kind of see it because it's so tight. It's going back to were you in Madison Square Garden for the Pursoon fight?
No, I was in the Garden. I was in Matchroom Garden for the Pursoon
for the rematch.
Yeah,
because funnily enough, that was 4 years ago today.
Yeah, I know.
That first Taylor Pursoon fight, and obviously the AJ Ruiz on that night.
Yeah.
So 4 years ago today, but those two fights against Pursoon.
That was the day Josh Kelly.
He got a draw, I think, didn't he?
With Robinson.
Yeah.
That's the same.
Yeah. Do you still do cuts for Josh?
No, I don't have anything to do anymore with Adam Booth's team. Obviously, they moved to a new gym, and I moved on. And, they've got someone who came to me a few years ago as a cut man, wanted to learn it. Neil Dempsey, Big Neil, he's a good cut man as well, and he does a lot of theirs. So I'll probably see Josh in that up in Newcastle, because I'm working with Big Steve Robinson, Drago Disney, when he fights Franklin Ignatius on the 24th.
Yeah, so your wife must be incredibly understanding.
My wife is probably the best wife any man could have. And there's probably other men say the same. You know, my wife's a prison officer. She works at a male prison in Sutton at Highdown. And she works every other weekend anyway. So, you know, it's only that. But listen, she knows what I was. I haven't been married that long. We've only been married 9 years. But in the 9 years, I've travelled so many miles and had so many weekends away and living out of a suitcase. But she's a good girl.
Yeah.
I love her bits. So I couldn't do what I do without her being so understanding. She's an absolute peach of a woman.
I think it's actually across all sport. I do a podcast also on ice hockey, and anyone involved in professional sport at any level has to have incredible support from home, because, like I say, the travelling, the weekends. I mean, us, the semi-pro ice hockey players in the UK, it's every weekend, Saturday, Sunday night, all season, travelling all up and down the country, as well as late night training sessions. So what you do is, incredible, obviously, for the fighters, because you are, I would probably say, the most recognisable cut man.
Really?
In the UK, I would say so.
I would say possibly because they do a lot. Because I started with the UFC as well, but now I don't do the UFC. But people like Jamie Sheldon, Adam Gigley, Bob, I can't remember his second name, from Birmingham way, Bob something. I'll think of it soon. They're quite well known as well. There's a lot of good cutmen out there.
Is it a dying breed, or is there youngsters coming through?
Lots of people wanting to do it. I get a lot. I probably get 2 or 3 a month asking me, where'd you start? How'd you learn? Blah, blah, blah. And some people say, look, I've tried 4 or 5 other cutmen. They won't tell me anything because they're frightened. They said, don't want you to know what we're doing. We're picking our brains and that. But I said, listen, I'm 64. Maybe I've got 10 years left in the game. I don't know, maybe more. But I'd rather have some decent people learning from someone who's doing the job than just having a guess at it and getting it wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. I suppose some people are sort of scared of losing the work, aren't they? If more people come into it. But was it Al Gavin that got you into doing it?
Yeah, Al Gavin from Bethpage, New York, known as Cutman to the Stars. He was over here, and I met him and had a chat with him, and he said, well, if you want to learn, come back to the States sometime and I'll give you a few tips. You can follow me around. So that's what I did. I went and watched him over when he had the Golden Gloves at the theatre in Madison Square, and I watched him with Eric Harding and a couple of other fighters out there, and got in it that way. If it wasn't for Al and what he taught me, only silly little things,
But you have to be a professional cutman, you have to be licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, to stop anyone going in, because I believe is that the only place you can actually get the adrenaline.
Yeah, there used to be a place called First Aid for Sport. They used to supply adrenaline, and you'd have to give you a badge number, like whatever it is. If you're a trainer, second, it would be TS, whatever. If you're a manager, it would be M or whatever. And that was where it's got it. But then in the lockdown, we had this massive problem with adrenaline, getting it. And it was really hard to get. But now it's just started coming back again. The paramedics are able to get hold of it, and we have to sign for it when we take it off them in the corner to say that we've accepted it yet.
Yeah, no, because you don't really want that just falling into the hands of anybody, do you? It's
No, not at all.
So what have you got coming up? I take it you've got Ellie Scottney, June 10th?
I've got Ellie on the 10th with Shane for her world title. And that's a long time coming because the other girl had a nasty cut and asked for a medical exemption to put it back a bit. And then I've got Hassan Azim, Adam Azim, Ellie Scottney and Ben Whittaker all on the 16th.
Excellent. That Adam Azim is something special, isn't he?
He can punch the boy, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think he's probably the best prospect in the UK at the moment. Ben Whittaker's up there as well, but...
Yeah, but people say to me, "Oh, it's all right until he gets it on the chin. Can he bang it? Can he take a shot?" And like anyone in any heavyweight division, we've said it years ago with Bruno. What's he like when he gets it on the chin? Well, we're going to find out sooner or later. But at the moment, no one's doing it.
No, I think it's similar with Ben Whittaker because that sort of style he's got is so it's so controversial, isn't it? It just draws all sorts of opinions from everywhere, similar to Prince Nassim back in the day.
Yeah, but they're both fighters of their own. He is a bit flashy. He's a different weight. It's going to be that way. People will do it. But Ben Whittaker was Ben Whittaker. Nassim Hamed is Nassim Hamed. Yeah,
and I think Ben actually does enjoy the fact that there is a lot of people that will watch him because they want to see him get knocked out.
Yeah.
And I think he enjoys that.
People want that with Fury. That's why Tyson loves giving the little bit of stick to people, and then people get on his back. Because they want to see him get beat.
Yeah, he's. We've heard more from him and from Frank today. I think he's really struggling to find an opponent, and I think he's bored, which I think is what all this malarkey is he's coming out with on social media.
I just hope they can get him something because I wouldn't want him to see him to lose interest, be bored, and go back into his old ways.
No, in all honesty, as a boxer, I'm a massive fan of Fury. He's an incredible fighter. I've never been actually a fan of his bravado and his behaviour. But I have always said as much as I would like him to go unbeaten, if he does get beaten, I don't want him to go back down that dark road again. That would not be that would not be good for him or for boxing either. It's, but he's another one, divisive, I suppose. He'll split opinions.
Yeah. But so, people like, young Ellie Scotney's come under the radar. She's a good little fighter. But in the ladies division, sooner or later, you've got to step up to that level. And I think she's capable of stepping up on the 10th. And I think she can win that. Yeah,
we spoke to Stevie Levy a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic character.
She's a crazy woman.
But we spoke about Ellie, because I'm a massive fan of women's boxing. I have been for years. My old coach was a woman. It's something I've always encouraged in the sport.
Yeah.
And I think she is the best that we've got. Unfortunately, I think weight.
Slick.
Oh, so slick. Unfortunately, I think weight will prohibit it, but her against Lauren Price would just be something unbelievable.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen, is it? Lauren's too big.
I think Lauren's too big for that.
8'6", 8'10", something like that. Was she super bantam? 8'10".
Lauren, I think Lauren's heavier than that. I think she's Ellie's super bantam, isn't she? Yeah, 8'6", 8'10". Yeah. But she's do you still do cuts for Shannon Courtney?
No, because she's with Adam Boostin.
Yeah, because it's obviously she's kind of fell off the edge of the planet, hasn't she?
Apparently she's had some reoccurrence of an injury to her leg, which might need more surgery, I've heard, but I don't know.
Yeah, so we were discussing it with Stevie, because she was offered the Nina Hughes fight after Shannon pulled out, but it went to Katie Healy in the end.
Yeah.
For that, which I think is on the same show, isn't it, as the Ellie Scotney fight at Wembley Arena?
Yeah, I believe so, from what I understand. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, mate, thank you so much for giving me your time this evening and talking us through, obviously, Chris Billam-Smith's win and your work on his eyebrow that evening and everything else that you've done in the sport. It's a true honour to speak to you, sir.
Thank you. I think everyone who was there that night, being the biggest crowd in Bournemouth and the first one at a stadium in Bournemouth, are very happy in Bournemouth. All the Cherry fans were there, and Chris has done his town and himself proud.
Absolutely. I think Ben Shalom said on TalkSport today that if Akoli has sort of gone for the rematch, that will also be in Bournemouth.
Will it really? Because Riakpor's up there, because Chris lost a very close split decision to Riakpor.
He did, yeah.
A few years back.
Yeah, I think Richard's a fantastically talented fighter.
He needs to be given something big and, for him now,
Yeah, I mean, with them, what I would like to see, I'd like to see Richard fight Badu Jack. And
that'd be a good call. I've worked in Badu's corner, and that would be a good fight.
Did you work with Badu when he split his head?
No. But first of all, I met Badu when I was in the opposite corner when Nathan Cleverly fought him in Vegas on the undercard Mayweather-McGregor.
Yeah.
And that night he said to us, "We're having a party tomorrow. Come on over." And he invited the whole team, but we had to fly back. And then I was in Saudi with Philip Hergovich and Ben Whittaker. And he asked me to do his corner again because he remembered me and he liked me. But I think Richard Riakpor and Badu Jack would be a good fight. Richard can punch, sometimes starts a bit slow, builds into the fight, but that would be a good fight.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And if Richard came through it, you'd then be looking at unification between Richard and Chris, which would be terrific.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, no, I think we've got some great fighters in Britain. And thank you for keeping them in clean cuts.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for the invite. And I hope everyone enjoys it.
Pleasure, Ian. Thank you very much.
Take care, sir. God bless.
Packing punches with these two bald dossers. The Gypsy King listens every day of the week and twice on Sundays.